Okay, if we are ready, I will. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Westport Board of Health, July 24th, 2023 meeting, which I am calling to order. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. And if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the director's written report. Next. Any questions on that?
Madam Chair.
Okay. Let's then turn to any updates from Matt.
So last week I was out a few days, but we're continuing our search for a transfer station staff member, whether it be somebody with a CDL and a hoisting, just a CDL, just a hoisting, or with neither, and they don't have to have any of it. We'll just have a regular attendant. We need to really get fully staffed down there. So we're working on it. I'm interviewing somebody tomorrow morning, and we'll see how that goes and see if we can move forward from there. Animal control, we've got some feelers out for that. Maybe looking at restructuring the way that we want to do things with that position a little bit to maybe attract somebody with a little bit more experience. We're working on it, but hopefully within the next 7 to 10 days, we'll have at least 1 or 2 people be able to interview for that position. Nick's busy, putting in a lot of hours. He is off till every other weekend, but he is on call every Monday through Friday. So we're really going to try to get some help in there for him to have some time off during the week as well. Board of Health is extremely busy with a lot of septic systems going in for a lot of different reasons. New construction, upgrades. There's a lot of things happening with septic. A lot of paperwork. The phones are ringing nonstop, and we're just doing the best we can. I encourage people, if they can't get us on the phone on the first try, to leave a voicemail. We do check voicemails routinely, and we will get back to you. Call in a different department and ask them to be transferred in, or just continuously calling. It doesn't help. We're always at the counter answering the phones. I mean, we really could use another clerk in the office that we're just that busy. So.
Before you move on, can you want to mention the whale?
Oh, yes. So we got a report that I think it was a humpback whale washed up along East Beach, and Nick has been working with, I think it's the Marine Mammal Rescue, and they're trying to anchor it in place tonight and tomorrow. I think they're going to tug it down off the private property areas, and so I'm being told that Highway is going to bury it. So I don't know much more than that, but that's where we are right now.
So we're monitoring that situation. Okay.
There was a video on Facebook today showing that.
It's a big thing. So.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to director approved plans.
Okay, I have a 3-bedroom repair on a 57,650 square foot lot for 422 Bridge Road for a Dolores Belanger, utilizing a Quick 4. And I have, and that's got to go through Concom. And then I have a 6-bedroom repair. It's utilizing an existing septic system. They're adding a new tank and a pump chamber on a 61,859 square foot lot for 7 Macumber Lane for Peter Johnson.
Okay, so does that need Concom?
No, I believe that one's been through Concom.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions?
No.
I move that we endorse the director-approved plans, and that for 22 Briggs Road, the condition of approval from Concom.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to endorse those plans. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to minutes. So we held over the June 26th minutes because last week, the only person, I missed that meeting and only Phil was present. So any questions or comments on that?
No, I'm fine with the minutes, so I move that we approve the June 26, 2023 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I abstain because I was present.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have them out of order. June 20th meeting, this is a special meeting. Any concerns?
I was fine with the minutes.
I'm fine.
Okay, so I move that we approve the June 20th, 2023 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. And finally, July 10th, last regular meeting. Any questions or concerns?
I was absent, so I will not vote.
I'm fine. Yeah.
I'll move the minutes of July 10th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and one abstention. Thank you. Okay. I'll lose track of my agenda. Moving on to other business, we can start with number one. This is the Public Health Excellence Grant Program. We've talked about that in the past. Recently, we endorsed the intermunicipal agreement. This is for the shared program amongst 6 communities, including Freetown, Lakeville, Marion, Mattapoisett, Rochester, am I missing one? And Westport. So these candidates have all been, their qualifications been submitted to the governance board of the South Coast Public Health Collaborative that was formed and enthusiastically endorsed. That would be Olive Wojcierski for the full-time shared services coordinator, which is really the program manager. Gabrielle Almeida, full-time shared services agent inspector, and this is really a training supervisor kind of position. And Shaylin Rodriguez, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Rodriguez, is a part-time 10 to 15 hours, same position. These are all grant-funded, 100% non-union positions. So we'll be bringing them before the select board tonight, or I will be, because Matt has to attend another select board meeting. And so I'm just looking for endorsement from the Board of Health.
Are they from around the South Coast? Or?
Olive currently works at the Rhode Island Department of Health.
Oh, okay.
She has a master's in public health with a
Perfect.
focus on health equity and inclusion.
Oh, beautiful.
And she was a contact tracer and then a supervisor, and she's currently working in an opioid harm reduction program. So
I love it.
so
That's wonderful.
we've talked a lot about not only the managing of the program, but developing public education stuff, doing a website.
I'm
So
stoked. I'm very excited.
we are excited too.
Oh, my goodness.
And Gabrielle, I'll turn to Matt. He did. I didn't interview these two. I did all of just the qualifications for.
So Gabrielle works for the town of Mattapoisett in a clerical capacity, but she's been training on inspections with the health agent down there. She's been on food inspections and other inspections. She has her ServSafe certification. She has her CPO, which is certified pool official certification. So she's got some experience behind her, which is something that we needed. For the longest time, we weren't getting any qualified candidates at all. So she's going to come over from the town of Mattapoisett and work for the grant in the inspector trainer capacity.
Should be working out of our office?
Well, so there's a desk here for the people.
Yeah, okay. yeah.
But for the full-time agent trainer, I think they're just going to be everywhere, every day throughout the 5 or 6 towns. I don't, if there is any office time, it'll probably be in different locations,
Yeah,
depending where they're working that day.
okay.
Olive will be managing the allocation of the workload, working with the different communities, identifying their needs and scheduling and so on. So she's the one who'll be sort of managing that.
And Shaylin is the inspector for the town of Marion, and they only work her 30 hours a week. That's all their budget allows. She wants to get 40 plus hours in a week, so we're going to have her work for us part-time, not for us, but for the grant, up to 15 hours a week. And so there's more than enough work for than just to have one full-time inspector, shared inspector.
Sure.
So this will be good to cover vacations, and just we'll have coverage all over the place. I know here in Westport, we have a lot of housing. The new housing code with the new way we're going to do things is very, very time consuming. So it'll be helpful to have somebody be able to come and help out with that. So Joe can focus on what he needs to, from what I can too, and John. Also, both these individuals are going to be getting into the SESI certification class in the fall. In the meantime, I'm going to have them shadow Ed, who is a engineer who does all the Lakeville Title V stuff. I'll have them shadow them. I'll have them shadow me, so they can get some background. When I was coming up through the system many years ago, I found it helpful to get the background and the field knowledge before I actually sat for the SE and the SI. So I think it'll be helpful for them. And then eventually, once they get that under their belt, we'll be able to crank up our perk tests. From right now, we're always booking. It seems like a month or longer out, but now we can kind of double up on it. Maybe do 2 new construction perks a day because we'll have multiple people to help us. Same thing with plan reviews. I think we do a fairly good job turning plans around. 2 weeks at a max, unless there's issues, then it can drag on. But now we'll have some different sets of eyes on it and be able to kind of get these things moving quicker.
Another role both of them will be playing is each of the communities has their own local regulations, so there's a lot to sort of fit together, but developing, one of the things that's important in the Public Health Excellence Grant is training and meeting standards, and so they will be developing trainings or organizing trainings for all of the 6 communities and existing staff as well as others. So that's a part of their responsibility too.
Yeah, they'll identify when they're in each community. Part of their job is to identify what the needs are. Who needs what. And bring that back to me. Olive. So bring it back to Olive. Well, then we'll check with me. But to set up these trainings, I have a plan in mind on how we're going to do this, similar to what we just did with the CPO training for the group, depending on who needs what. But we're going to integrate different topics and trainings into our monthly meetings as well. So we have a plan in mind now that we have the people to execute it. It'll be nice.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, really, and it's very exciting, and it's exciting for me because the education piece, the outreach piece that I've been kind of trying to do with the mental health awareness stuff, that there'll be somebody else who also can help facilitate that and do it with all the communities. So that's wonderful.
One of the goals in the fall, and hopefully in the fall, I was shooting for early fall, but now it's looking like mid-fall, is to have a multilingual health event, health fair. So that's one of the projects we're gonna, I think, start working on right out of the gate.
And I think another down the road is a hoarding task force. That's an issue across many communities. So
Yes.
there's potential is great,
Which I
and
have,
the need is great.
which
so.
I have much experience with. So
Yeah.
I would be part of that.
Okay, So, I don't know that I need a vote, but I just, any other questions or concerns, so great. I'll just say that, can report that to
Should
the,
we, just in case, should the board vote to move it to the select board for appointment tonight?
we can do a formal vote. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I move that we approve this or endorse this to go to the select board this evening.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, given the warm conditions in the room with the lack of air conditioning, I am going to take out of order, because it did not require a butter notification, the 4:40 p.m. Project for 16 Pine Tree Way. We don't want to make you sit here any longer than necessary.
And not going to be good. Okay, for the record, Greg Nicholas of South Coast Engineering, and this was for the estate of Irene Pacheco at 16 Pine Tree Lane. Pine Tree Avenue. Okay, what we have is an existing two-bedroom house and serviced by a cesspool. It also has a shallow well, which is just to the south of the garage. The wells around the property were all located, and as you can see, it left me a roughly triangular area trying to fit a septic system within all those constraints to the Title V. That's the one variance that you're trying, or to avoid it, if at all possible. So what we have here is this rather, in my mind, innovative design of a Presby system, but it does give you the required square footage and also the required pipes. The variances that we're looking for as a result of this is a setback to the pump chamber at 8.5 feet from the foundation wall and from the edge of the system at 14.9 feet from that same corner of the foundation. One other thing that might be of interest is that this is a derelict street, a derelict V, middle street. So the property line does extend to the middle of that street. However, you really can't put anything in there because it is still an easement, even though it is their property. So that's also calculated into the total area of the lot, which is 13,750 square feet. So that's an overview of the project. Do you have any questions? I'll do my best to answer.
You did a fantastic job fitting into that triangle.
I was pretty proud of myself, too.
I thought that was interesting.
So this will need a deed restriction. I'm sorry, I should turn first to Matt. For your report.
Yeah, no, I have no comment on the design, but it will need a deed restriction, couple reasons. One, it's, the lot size is only, 13,000 square feet?
It's like
I believe.
two-bedroom house.
Yeah, and it's a two-bedroom house, and design is only for 2 bedrooms, which requires a deed restriction by Title V, so.
Okay.
And other than that, I don't have any other comment.
Okay. I know some of the Presbys require O&M. I'm guessing this one doesn't. I'm just I didn't go look. And this is purely out of curiosity. The D box, you said required an H20 load, and everything else is at H10.
Yeah,
Just explain it, because I don't.
The only reason for that is because D-box is small.
Okay.
You don't have a whole heck of a lot of fill over the top of it,
Okay.
and it's one thing that's gonna get whacked is gonna be that thing.
Okay.
I don't always put it into on there, it depends on,
The location.
if I know the installer's going to be, then I consider that as well.
Okay. All right. Just thank you for explaining that. Okay. Any other questions from board members?
No,
None for me.
he needs Concom with you, right?
Yes, it does. I move that we approve the plan for 16 Pine Tree Ave dated 7/5/23 with the following variances. There were 2 variances, correct?
Yes.
Reduction in offset edge of system to the foundation wall from 20 feet to 14.9 feet. And the reduction in offset from the pump chamber to the foundation wall from 10 feet to 8.5 feet with the following conditions: 2-bedroom deed restriction, hold harmless agreement, and Concom approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg.
Stay cool.
Yeah, try.
We'll try.
It's a little hard when there's no AC.
I'm losing track of my agenda. I'm gonna put my agenda. Okay, I have my notes, so I'll just see if I
Oh,
can
okay.
find it. But thank you. If I can't find it, I will turn to Ron. I can't, how did I lose, oh, here it is. Too many pieces of paper. Okay, so, our next, our 4:30 appointment has been canceled. So our next, scheduled one is at 4:50. So we have, half an hour to, address these other business items. For 170 Cadman's Neck, do we have any, do you know if anybody's coming into?
I didn't have,
It's not an appointment.
I don't, no, I don't think anybody is coming in, so, I can let the board know what's being asked and then take it from there.
Well, let me put that towards the end in case somebody comes, and then, if before the appointment, we can take it up again. So let's go to the sieve analysis one. 719 Main Road, septic repair with sieve analysis. That's the one with AVT. Matt, let me turn to you.
Yep, so this is a plan for 719 Main Road. 3 bedrooms on a 21,614 square foot lot. It's a sieve analysis, so the board needs to approve the sieve analysis and move a perk test. Because it was just so wet over there, they couldn't get a perk. So.
But that has no other upgrade approval requirements or anything like that?
No, there's not, it's just a sieve analysis. Other than that, the plan looks fine to me.
Matt,
Yes.
you said it's 3-bedroom?
Did I not say it was, did I
The
say?
plan is 2-bedroom.
Is it 2 bedroom? I might have wrote it down wrong.
I think because John wrote it
John
in
wrote
his
3
his 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, but the plan itself is a 2-bedroom house on the plan.
Let me just take a look at that one. I might have looked at it wrong.
So then we would need a deed restriction. Is it
Yes.
designed for?
Just give me a second.
No, he designed it for 3 bedrooms.
Right, because the design by Title V it has to be designed for 3 bedrooms.
Right.
But it's gonna still need a 2-bedroom deed restriction. Because
Okay, because there's only 2 bedrooms on it.
it's only a 2-bedroom house.
But what's the size of the lot?
The size of the lot is
21,600.
Yeah.
Yeah, 21,600.
21,614.
Okay, so it's a 3-bedroom design, 2-bedroom house, we need a deed restriction. Okay.
Correct.
And it needs Concom?
It does need Concom, yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
None for me, so I move that we approve the plan. Are we approving the plan, or are we approving the sieve analysis?
You did do the whole thing, the plan, sieve analysis,
Okay.
deed restriction, Concom.
Okay. All right, so I move that we approve the plan, 719 Main Road, dated July 7th, 2023.
The property owner is HAM.
Excuse me?
Property owner,
Oh, property owner, AJM Property Holdings.
Mm-hmm.
And with the variance or the request for use of sieve analysis and condition, with the following conditions: 2-bedroom deed restriction and Concom review.
Second,
motion made and seconded to approve the plan with sieve analysis for 719 Main Road. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Next, we'll turn to 23 Briar Ave. And I will turn that one also over to Matt for discussion.
Yep, so this is another SIV analysis, and for approval, it's a 3-bedroom repair on a 20,107 square foot lot, using a Presby environment septic. It started out with a microfast, but they changed it to just having a Presby. The design looks good. It's gonna require a deed restriction and Concom review.
Questions from the board?
Nope. So, I move to approve the plan for Robert and Gorilla Bouchard at 23 Briar Avenue on a plan of 3-bedroom repair. On a plan dated 6/26/23.
Actually,
We did
there's
the
a-
rev date of 7/19.
Oh, okay. 7/18/23?
7/19.
Oh, 7/19/23, okay. Subject to Concom review, 3-bedroom deed restriction, and approval of the SIV analysis.
Second. Motion made and seconded to approve the plan for 23 Briar Ave, including a SIV analysis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, moving on next to the next agenda item, total nitrogen testing requirement. This was my first attempt at trying to sort of summarize all the information, because I think there's been some confusion around when nitrogen reducing systems are required. And I know I hadn't reviewed this with Matt because he was away last week, so he's already given me some feedback, and I'm sure you all also have feedback. I think most of the information is sort of factual, but there is a sort of a clarification around when exactly, whether, I guess what I'm proposing is that when it's a voluntary install of a nitrogen reducing system, that total nitrogen testing be recommended but not required. Because we're getting some, as you have seen in other agenda items, pushback from people around cost, which I've done a little bit of more research on today, and I'll share that for later on. But so that's sort of the policy thing that I was thinking about. But this is just a first stab at it. So I wanted to get everybody's feedback and figure out, are there, did I get it wrong in some places, or is it confusing? Intention is to try and clear it up. For instance, like the 23 Briar Ave, they assumed they had to put in a D-night, when for repair it's generally not required, only under certain limited circumstances. So, and the same thing, people think the cesspool upgrade requirement means cesspool to D-night, and I think a lot of that is the confusion around the DEP proposed regulations. Also had that 5-year timeline that made it sound, sort of, people are conflating those things. So cesspool upgrades also don't typically require a nitrogen reducing system, although we welcome it when people offer it. So let's just start at the beginning. First page under when is it required? All new construction or increase in flow, which means adding a bedroom. That's pretty clear now. I did put that note in about what we have in our regulation now was in the town bylaw about when it's within 100, new construction within 100 feet of waters of the Commonwealth. Would have to put in D-night anyways under our regulation, but also because it's within 100 feet, would need to get a variant, local variance, or local approval by the Board of Health, not just a pass through. So that may be confusing because Title V allows it as long as it's with, more than 50 feet away. We have a local regulation. That's one of the ones that is 20 years old that we incorporated into our comprehensive local reg that said if it's less than 100, so that between the 50 and 100 feet is when that local variance provision would be required. But it could be confusing because, straightforward, all new construction requires D-night anyways. So it's sort of a kind of a moot point. So that's the first one. Any thoughts on that? Whether, go ahead.
No, so I just didn't, so when you were starting off, I wasn't sure, or maybe we need to think about who the audience is, because it seemed like the second part of it, which I'm sure would be really helpful to the regulated, to the engineers part, is that these are the systems that we want to see in your plan part of it. And whereas I think it is challenging, particularly when you get into maximum feasible compliance, to kind of summarize all of that. And I had just some specific comments about that, and I just didn't know if that, if that was really necessary. Like if the main goal was to point out to the engineering community what kind of systems we would want, it seems that was like one emphasis. If it's to kind of explain to the general public about the circumstances under which where either the regulations or we have the discretion under our policy to require it, it just gets a little more complicated, I think. And so my thought was just to do to focus on the second part of it, and maybe it's a little bit of the wording where we're saying, if the regulation requires or the board requires you to install a nitrogen reducing system, these are the systems that are included, in that category. Like rather than getting into the criteria for a waiver, for example, under maximum feasible compliance kind of thing, because we just do, all those cases come out really, kind of quite a bit site specific, and just to say that I had an issue about how the B2 about uninhabited 3 years of existing systems not meeting Title V being considered new construction, because under the Water Resource Protection Regulation, we have this separate definition of new construction, which is narrower than that. It only applies to new buildings and increase in flow. It doesn't apply to repairs, where just, it doesn't apply to repairs at all. And I thought that was a little bit part of our intent. So we could debate that now, and I was thinking, well, rather than getting into the whole debate about that now, we could just go forward with, here's what we want to see in the plans, part of it. And then Matt and I were talking about earlier that he had some thoughts about revising the building renovation regulation. And I thought, okay, well, that would be a good vehicle to really decide, is that what we want to do if I've if a house is abandoned for 3 years and it gets sold, or someone comes back in and says, well, I just want to change my septic tank, or I want to just do a repair, are we now going to say, well, you need to put in a whole new D-night system? I don't think that's the thrust of where we were going, so.
Yeah,
Anyway, so that was my thought.
okay,
Just do it
yeah,
simple and just get it out there to the regulated community.
okay.
That's my thought.
So, basically, I hear what you're saying, and let me just read the language from the regulation around uninhabited for 3 years, because you're right, it is not explicit, and maybe I've overinterpreted. Any building uninhabited for 3 years or more requiring an upgrade to a septic system not approved under Title V, so it's a non-compliant system or in failure perhaps, will be considered as new construction and will require all percolation tests, permits, fees, and plans necessary at the time of the application. Which doesn't explicitly say new construction per this regulation or
Right.
definition.
Right.
So, and we did
Well, right.
clarify that
Right.
around when we did the regulation, making the definition explicit to the new construction section.
Right.
So, you're right. This is probably an overinterpretation. So,
Yeah.
maximum feasible compliance, I know, is complicated,
Yeah.
and it's a policy, not driven by our regulations. So it would be a board requirement based upon the concerns we have around the drinking water quality.
Right, the drinking water quality issue, right.
So I could see that as being too convoluted to try to summarize, as you say. What about the within 50 feet of a surface water boundary
Yeah,
or wetland?
yeah.
I mean, that is also from our regulation.
Right, I think that's
Is that
more,
also an
yeah,
overinterpretation?
I mean, I think it's more, yeah, I think that is more specific because it refers to, the regulation specifically refers back to, the nitrogen loading limitations of Title V. If you're in
Okay,
that
yeah.
location. So,
Okay.
but it would, again, well, and so I think it's reasonable to say that that's a situation where, like, even if you had a lot, I think I read it, see, well, even if your lot does not trigger the nitrogen loading limitations, the fact that you're putting the system within 50 feet of a surface water boundary or the wetland abutting or whatever the bordering,
Yeah,
in itself should trigger the nitrogen loading limitations. I mean, and so it would seem that would be a situation where, well, if it was new construction and you were if it was new construction, you would be covered anyway. It wouldn't really matter under our regulations. If it was, I think what this is saying, if this is a repair and you were within 50 feet, then you would have to use the criteria of the, it's a little bit confusing, as to how that actually works. I don't
Okay.
know. I think we had one case about it, right? Where we said they had to put D-night in, and I don't remember what the lot size was. It was kind of like, I'm sorry, I'm probably talking more than I should, but just to say one more thing. So if you went back to the Title V, they say, well, you need to have 10,000. I mean, you need to have one bedroom for every 40,000 square feet, right? 10,000 square feet, excuse me. Yeah. So so what do you do in a situation where you have a lot, on a repair of a lot size that would not trigger the nitrogen loading limitations? How do you, but the system is within 50 feet of the river,
Well,
or a tributary. of
the
the river.
nitrogen loading limitations does not refer to the Title V nitrogen loading limitations. It refers to Section 12 of our regulation, which is.
Oh,
the
now
19
it does.
This
Oh,
one,
this
yes.
one does.
Which-
Okay, yeah,
Which is
okay.
the 19 milligrams per liter, which,
Okay, right.
is basically a nitrogen reducing system.
Oh, I see, okay.
So that one is,
So we
That
kind of
one's clear.
transformed it from what it originally said. when
I
we-
don't
when we
remember what
revised
it
it.
originally said.
Yeah. Yeah, because pre our regulation, it referred back to the Title V nitrogen loading restrictions.
The old regulation.
Yeah, the old regulation did.
It wouldn't have referred to our regulation yet because it didn't exist. Yeah. Mhm.
Right,
I
right,
don't-
because it
yeah.
was way before that. So that's what I was,
Okay.
but now if it says, you have to, do the 19 milligrams per liter, I think, I agree, I think that that's clear.
Okay.
But
Well,
I don't know that it's really necessary for the purpose that we're really trying to get to.
Yeah. I think the main point I'm trying to make is upgrades in, upgrade in office parlance, not upgrade in Title V
Mhm.
parlance, which is increase in flow. But the lingo is in use here. There's been, I think, confusion
Yeah,
and
I
some
agree.
misinformation being spread around, particularly associated with the cesspool
Mhm.
upgrade requirement or a cesspool repair requirement, that it means D-night, and it does not. And so I was trying to say it's only in certain limited circumstances. But I think I'm wrong. And number two, while it may be correct, number one, and 3 is really a policy, not a regulation, it makes the whole section murkier
Mhm.
than it needs to be. So I think we could revise that to say, repairs only in rare circumstances, consult the office but trying to make the point that it's not, the our septic regulation requires it only pretty much for new construction and very rarely in any other circumstance, including a cesspool upgrade. Which I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around
Should
that.
should that
Yeah.
be the beginning of this, is to say that?
Yeah, I
Right
think
at the
that we need to
beginning?
reword that section to say,
Well, even like
Or
an
you-
introduction,
yeah,
that it's in rare circumstances, new construction, yes, but in rare circumstances, the others.
Yeah.
And so that might help,
okay,
if you couch it that way in the very beginning.
all right.
And here are the circumstances.
Yeah, okay. So then I'll take another crack at that, or if somebody has some language they want to suggest, that would be great. So that the next part is where I'm sort of putting forth the proposal, because I don't think it's 100% clear. It's not clear. People do choose to put in nitrogen-reducing systems voluntarily.
Mhm.
What we're starting to get is this pushback, in particular with the certain system technology where at least one O&M provider is really has really raised their cost rates for O&M and total nitrogen testing, so that it's hundreds more than others provide. But people don't know that. And so what I'm suggesting is, I don't want to lose those voluntary upgrades to people who
Mhm.
feel like the ongoing cost is more than they want to deal
Right.
with. When they are steered in a certain direction, or they choose a technology that's the Cadillac technology. There are other cheaper options,
Right.
you know, if you're trying to do the right thing. But one option to consider is if it's a voluntary upgrade, to make the total nitrogen testing voluntary. I would encourage it because that's really the best way to determine how well your system is functioning. So that's something, you know, for discussion, and we may,
Yeah.
you know, it's a balancing act of some less data confirming the, you know, effectiveness of the technology versus perhaps one less barrier to voluntary nitrogen reducing installs. So that's what I was trying to get at that point. I don't know how people feel about that. I think we have said anytime somebody puts a nitrogen reducing system in, we say 2 times a year total nitrogen testing.
Right.
Do we want to back off from that is basically the question.
Oh,
For the voluntary, not for,
oh, for the voluntary.
yeah, no, not for new construct. I mean, when it's required, we want to make sure that, because we are seeing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that maintenance is really important, particularly, I've been talking to folks in the field today, particularly for the Singulaires, for their effective performance.
Mhm.
The O&M is really important.
Mm-hmm.
It's always important. It's
Mhm.
just like running a car, you know, it runs best when it's well maintained. Or any advanced technology.
Right.
You know.
So I guess I have a question, which is there a way that you can, what's the right word, maintain the system and know that you're kind of optimizing performance, for lack of a better word, without testing the effluent?
Well, they do test, like, there's usually, most of the DEP approvals require that, you know, BOD testing and
Yeah,
pH
yeah.
and that kind of stuff that will give you you know, an idea. But in terms of the effectiveness of the denitrifying piece
Right.
of it, you know, I don't know how well you can
Yeah.
test, you know, how well you can
I
assess
mean,
that.
if I would use a parallel thing, so like every year I have, you know, people come to clean my boiler and they like change the filters and they do this and that thing, but I don't really know. Yeah, and I'm not saying, well, could you test my
Test the
fuel
efficiency.
efficiency?
Yeah.
You know, is this actually, you know, have you really making it work because, you know, because the boiler is advertised as being 89% efficient,
Yeah.
you know, and I think, and so that's, I'm wondering if that, which, and I don't know that there's an answer to the question, but, you know, I think that it might, I think if people are doing it voluntarily, and because I think that even if the systems are not performing optimally, you know, that there is a significant reduction in nitrogen. It may not get down to 19, but if it would be coming out as 70, you know, without any treatment, and instead it's coming out at 30, it's still a big gain over, you know, overall, just in terms of the objective of it. So I have an open mind to do that.
Mhm.
I mean, what occurred to me is, while I know that we can't and shouldn't pick, you know, direct people to specific contractors, I just wonder if if it's legitimate to, you know, post the name of, are these contractors approved by us, or are they approved by?
Approved by the maker of the,
Right.
like, if it's
I mean, just approved,
if
like,
it's an Orenco system.
here's what we know of what they're charging now, like, here's the price.
That would be a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, if you
So there's
look
a lot
at the
of-
Barnstable County,
Yeah.
and the pricing changes. I mean, I got a quote today for total nitrogen testing for my AX20, and it's $87.
Yeah,
So that's a lot, and that's my current O&M
Right, right,
operator.
right.
And,
Right.
you know, he gave me a quote for regular service visits
Right.
too, just so I'd have a
Yeah.
frame of reference.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
but, we're at
Right.
450, so
Yeah.
we can,
I think I need to weigh and think about
okay,
that.
okay. Well, I think we have other agenda items we may want to move to a working meeting anyway, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
that might be.
definitely food for thought, on that, and, you know, the rest of it is more technical. I think it's not, it's what we've sort of agreed on in practice, but putting it in writing, mostly for the engineers and contractors. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily a general audience document, so let's table that for now, and we'll circle back to that. Okay, so I am now going to call the 4:50 p.m. hearing. This is for my agenda. Variance request from the local septic regulation. This is Ray Parent, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, for the proposed nitrogen-reducing septic system at 3 Burrard Court, map 34, lot 41B, requesting a waiver or a variance from our local regulation requiring nitrogen-reducing system for new construction.
That's correct.
Welcome. Thank you
Thanks.
for coming in.
I bought the land roughly 5 years ago with an approved septic design that had expired. Knowing that I could just resubmit it, he'd have to make some changes to it and resubmit it, not knowing that there was going to be some regulation changes happening in between all of that. So we've spent, with my dad, who passed last year, we spent some time designing our house to build this house, and then when it came time to get the building permit, Lenny had to change the septic system to an Advantech type system. Not that big of a deal, I guess. Didn't really know much about it, to be honest with you. And then started building the house. We have 5 acres of land, beautiful house. Had to go ahead and spray foam. Had to go ahead, put a heat pump system, ERV system in, and now during COVID of all times. And my budget is gone, per se. And now I'm getting ready to do the septic, and it's a lot more than what we have. And there's 2 houses next to me. It's a 3-lot development. The other 2 houses were built, I'm not sure, probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But they have regular septic systems. And then there's 2 houses on the other side of my lot behind me that just got built. I believe it's Holmes Properties, Scott Homes. They just put in traditional septic systems. And I know I'm not on the river per se, and I do have 5 acres of land, and my well is far enough away from my septic. And I'm just asking if there's anything you guys can do to help me out. Really, I went to my loan is with Bank 5, and I went to Bank 5 to ask them if I could get more money because we're pretty much out of money, and they won't give me any money until I get a CO, and I can't get a CO until I close, and I can't get financing for new construction septic system. So I'm literally at a point now where the house is pretty much almost done, and and to me, it just, the other 2 houses are right there. They have regular septic systems. I don't know a lot about that. Just talking to people recently, it's, you know, I can't afford to put in a $40,000 septic system or plus at the house right now, and it seems like everybody else around me has basic septic systems. If I was building a house on the Westport River, I mean, I'm a member of Westport Yacht Club. Like, I appreciate the ocean, I appreciate all of that. I'm not asking, you know, I know people probably put more bad fertilizer on their lawns on the Westport River than what most septic systems probably do. But just asking if you guys could look at my original septic. Lenny said he'd have to make a bunch of changes to it anyway to do a regular as a Title V system. Lenny?
Yeah, I'm here because I designed the septic system. I'm not doing any of the work there. He has his own people doing that. I've just told him I would help him. His father was a good friend of mine, so I'm here to answer any questions. There is a huge area of land up there, wetlands, but there's no stream anywhere near this. So that's the question he wants to ask, and that's why I'm here to help him. So he's a good air conditioning man, you know. You could swap a D-Nice system for air conditioning there.
Do you notice we don't have any?
We don't have any right now.
I came in for some cool air. No, I'm getting this hot air.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for presenting your case. Let me explain a little bit about why the Board of Health adopted this regulation first in 2021 and revised in the fall of 2022. The Westport River and all the tributaries is sort of leading to it, but the river itself is considered an impaired water body because it has the total input of nitrogen to the river from all sources, including fertilizer, septic systems, stormwater, exceeds what is considered healthy for the river. And so long-term, the town, both by EPA and DEP, is required to bring that load down. So we're proposing not we, but the town's proposing sewer. There's various strategies working with farmers around fertilizer reduction. We can't regulate fertilizer at the local level. That's only regulated at the state level, so we can't do too much. So we try and do best we can around education and so on. Around septic systems, the Board of Health has done a two-pronged approach. One is to target the most polluting or least effective septic systems, which are cesspools that are 50 years and more older and don't really function well. And that's particularly important for protecting drinking water, which is the wells on site. For new construction, it's a different story. And the reason is anytime you build a new house and add people and add their effluent, their output, it's going to go somewhere. And ultimately, time of travel varies, but it will ultimately end up in the river. And we're already above the load that is allowed. Any new septic system, even the best performing, is contributing more. So we have to then say, if you don't get your load down, then we're going to have to find another way to compensate for that. So our rationale for new construction has been, you're building a new house, it is an added cost, there are different technologies with different price points. But if you're in a financial position to build a new house, buy the land and so on, then the added cost to that is part of the solution to helping the town achieve its nitrogen loading limitation for the river. So that's the big picture. You know, individual circumstances I can understand. It's COVID threw a lot of plans, awry and delayed, and construction cost of lumber I know went way up for a while. I think they've come back down, maybe, hopefully. But I understand that inflation has been really high. But we don't, right now, the only solutions Westport has are to reduce that load, is to try and chip away at it piece by piece. So you're hopefully part of that solution. So I've said my piece. I'm going to open it up for comment from board members. I will, and I think Donna's looking at that, we do have a variance provision. I don't know if you've looked at the language. I don't have that. I'm just looking at it for another reason. So a variance of our local regulation, this is so not Title V, public hearing, which you're here for, that when we can grant a variance if an alternative will result in equal or greater environmental protection, including but not limited to nitrogen reduction required under Title V and this regulation, or strict enforcement would be manifestly unjust and the variance is not inconsistent with the intent or purpose of Title V or this regulation. So you're proposing a less environmentally beneficial, not a bad system, but less than we are requiring. So you don't meet the criteria for number one under the variance. The question is whether strict enforcement would be manifestly unjust, and you're making the case for financial reasons.
Yeah, and I also, on the other side of not aspect, was like, to build a greener house and to be more energy efficient, I, originally wasn't gonna do the spray foam thing, and then, that was like, got talked into that, and then luckily I'm in the heating and air conditioning business, but still like, I had to do HRV, heat pump systems now because of everything else, and not even living there, the electric bill is already $380, $400 a month, and we're not even, and this thing runs every 30 minutes, and so I'm looking at my overall cost, long-term wise in the house, and it's like, it's a lot of money long-term for me, and then I have to, which you just told me the other day, I have to have it inspected 3 times,
Operation and maintenance agreement.
which is $800 to $1,000 a year, is that correct?
It's
It
probably-
depends on the operator you choose.
So now I'm looking at a forever cost of over $100 a month for my septic system, which, where I live now, it gets pumped every year for $380. So it seems like I am in that world, right? So like I'm the sales rep, I rep Wiesmann Boilers for years, and we put more energy efficient stuff in, but yet your overall cost just continues to rise as a homeowner all the time. And I'm looking now, here I am, I built a pretty green house, and now it's costing me a lot of money to live in this house, and I'm not even living in it just because of all the electrical costs. That HRV doesn't shut off. It runs 24 hours a day, which I have to do because I spray foamed. If I didn't spray foam, I wouldn't have needed the HRV.
What is HRV?
I think that's a 4-bedroom house he's building, correct?
We
4 bedroom?
designed a 4-bedroom septic, but it is a 3-bedroom house.
Okay, well, 4 bedrooms, Title V says you need 10,000 square foot per bedroom. That's 40,000 square feet. He's got 5 acres, which is roughly 200,000 square feet. So he really meets Title V. And a lot of his acreage is wetlands, but there's no brook there. And we were taught back in '73 to protect wetlands because it eats up nutrients, yada, yada, yada. It's gotta go down the hill and back up to the river. That's not gonna happen. That's my argument. Title V says this, and they're saying that. The state wanted to redo the whole thing, South Shore and the Cape, and they dropped it now, so. They must have found something out. Yeah, I guess they did, didn't they?
They found out there was a lot of pushback.
That's right.
But eventually, I don't know what's gonna happen.
I don't either.
in
All
that
I know
realm.
is that.
But we caught a break right now,
Yep.
and we appreciate that because we've got a strategy to address that solution,
Right.
which would be much more palatable for the town than the 5-year, everybody's got to upgrade to D9 requirement that was the stick being proposed by DEP. So I hear your concern. I'm going to open it for board members for their comments.
Yeah, I hate these situations, where, you're in, the situation where, that you're describing, and, a little bit from this side of the table, even as you described it, kind of feels like, you've got, like you did all these other things without thinking about this, I don't mean unintentionally, and now we're kind of like the end of the line, so to speak. And it's like, well, I can't afford to do what you want us to do. And I think that one of the challenges in this kind of regulation is to try and treat everybody the same, in the sense of, if everybody could just come in and say, well, this is a tough break for me financially, let me out, then kind of where does that leave us?
Yeah, I mean, we also didn't anticipate COVID happening, you know what I mean?
Right,
It was
right, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
in the
yeah.
price of lumber
yeah,
and
so,
now the system itself is a lot more
Yeah.
money today than it was
right,
originally.
right, right. I
What'd you
mean-
give for a price on the system?
45.
I mean, but it is, I mean, if we were really, we have this other process in where we really try to look at, what is the, what's the incremental cost of just adding the D-night part of it? So, because you're gonna have to put in a septic system, it's gonna have, alternative technology just to handle the leach field. So everything that's associated with it, so it's not really you're not really, whatever you would do, it's not that your septic system cost is gonna go from 40,000 to zero.
That
It's-
doesn't include electrical, I
it's-
guess I have to have the electrician
Yeah,
wire
well,
all
yeah,
of that stuff
yeah,
too, so,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, but just, it would, right, I mean, it would be
I wouldn't need the
the
electrician if we
same
did
if you
Title
were.
V, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are just some things that are just out of our control, just like energy prices going up or down, So I don't know. So then, what's the incremental cost?
The
Is this a
D-night.
$30,000 system and it's gonna cost another
The
10,000?
D-night, the Vantax D-night with electrical connections runs about 16,000.
Okay, so, and how much have you put into the house, like, for land and building the house?
400,000.
Yeah, okay.
Plus the land, right?
What's that?
Plus the land.
I bought the land 5 years ago, so,
Yeah,
whatever, so
Yeah.
320,000, 330,000 is what I put to the house, because I had 70,000 I could pay
right,
off on the
so,
land.
I'm terrible with math, but, so if it was, so it is 15,000 for the system, so what percentage of 15,000
It's
is
not
a
15,000 for the
400,000?
system.
Would bring it down to 30,000 without the D-night.
Right, right, but I mean, the incremental cost, I understand the incremental cost of the D-night just as a system, well, if it was 20,000, it would be 10%, right? It would be 5% of your, what's the math? Put me on the math.
What's the,
Well, I'm just saying, so what percentage of, for what's,
say 400,000, 10% is 40,000,
yeah,
so,
but now, but the incremental cost is only 15,000.
right.
Right.
So it's a,
Yeah, I mean, I just.
so we're looking at, I mean, just to think about it from our point of view, is that from your total cost, the additional cost of the D-night, which is, it's not that you can't afford a $40,000 system.
It's a
but you're
lot
gonna
more
have
than
to
that
pay
though.
30.
It's a lot more than that when you're done, because the electrician's 75 to 8,000 bucks,
Yeah,
and that doesn't,
yeah,
it's,
You're looking at
he's,
$1,000 to $1,200 a year in today's day,
Yeah.
yeah, and the other two houses that are right next to me have regular septic systems, and
well,
I,
yeah, yeah.
and that other two houses also at the same time had the wells put in, the septic design is done. Those, like I said, if I just would have had renewed before that date, my design would have still been good, I would have been fine. I'm not asking, if that wasn't the case, I really would say I have no argument at all, but
Right.
there was a design that was done. If I literally would have just came here before that date, I wouldn't be sitting here right now too.
Right, well,
And-
right.
Yeah, but it's expired in 2009, so that's a long time.
It is, but I could have had it redone and still, like, I bought the land 6 years ago,
You
and
could have had a plan.
could have gave it to him and had him
Renewed
redo
it.
it.
Right, right,
And it would have been
right,
done.
right.
Which is what I was told all I had to do was just bring the plan to Lenny can redo it and submit it, and then that's what I did, and he's like, yo, why'd you wait so long to do it? And I'm like, I had no idea, I mean, and it's
Yeah,
my
well,
fault, it's
but
totally my fault.
2009 is not just 3 years ago. I mean, it's a long time ago, and it went through other
When'd you buy
owners.
the lot?
No, you can
2000?
buy the lot.
Yeah,
I bought
mean,
when I bought the land, the it had an expired septic design system, Lenny.
Yeah, doesn't matter,
Yeah.
but if you'd have done it 3 years ago, then
Yes.
you could have put a non-deny system in.
Correct. I've owned the land for all of 5 years.
Yeah, if you did it 5 years ago.
Right.
You would have had a septic plan current, it could have been renewed. As long as it was enforced, the day they passed the regulation, it would have been okay. You know how many plans we did? Not me, all the engineers.
Yeah.
It was plan after plan.
Which is all, if I would've just done that, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd already owned the land, we'd already started the design of the house, we were already clearing the land. It was like, me and my dad were building the house, you know, and my dad was the one that said, you gotta go see Lenny, you gotta go see Lenny. I heard this thing about the town, and then when I go see Lenny, Lenny said it was too late. You have to do a different system. A different system to me was fine, you know, what I knew it was gonna cost more. Like I said, I literally, listen, I have a pit in my stomach. I was almost done with this house, and we're broke. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that. I've never been broke in my life, but I pulled $70,000 out of my 401k, like, to get to the point where I'm at now, and I just, you know, I'm literally, I just, and also I'm looking at the $150 a month for the rest of my life to live in this brand new house for a septic system is, and like my dad's house that we gotta sell because he passed away, like that has to meet all the regulations, but we could go ahead and get a 0% financing loan for a septic system on an existing property, which I can't do for a new construction.
Right.
They don't even give me rebates for half the stuff that, I don't get anything for spray foam in my house. But yeah, an existing house, they pay 70% of your installation costs. So I'm sorry, and he's not wrong, by the way. I built a house, I'm at this point, and I should have, I'm embarrassed. I am embarrassed sitting here with you guys.
Well,
But I'm at a point now where I'm at the mercy of everybody in front of me, you know? And Lenny knows my father for years, and he said he'd do whatever he could for me, and I don't.
okay. I will say, I personally have an Advantech system. It is the best system around. There are other,
And I was told not to put anything in. If you have to do that, don't do anything but Advantech. That's what I've been told. Because your $150 a month thing comes now to when the guy shows up and says, nope, it needs this, and then it's another $700 or $800 or $900. Now your average cost, which I haven't gone to yet, ends up being $200, $250 a month when you divide it out over the maintenance stuff that they always find.
I will say, just from my own personal experience, I have I just got a fresh quote today because I was calling my O&M operator to say, when are you coming? Because you're due. So $250 a visit twice a year, so $500 was the, I installed it before the regulation, so I'm not required to do the total nitrogen testing 2 times a year, but I do it once a year. That's $87, plus the $55 reporting fee to Barnstable County. So we have not really noticed a big bump up in our electric bill. So, and again, not fair, we did install it before, 2020, during COVID, but, so there are other technologies that are less expensive, there are other, ways to, other maintenance operators that might be less expensive, so that's not necessarily an adequate, you may not think that's adequate, but there are, and I appreciate that you've tried to invest in, advanced technologies for your home and make it as energy efficient as possible for climate and the future, and that's great. Our job is to protect also the existing.
But like Lenny said, I do have 5 acres of land. The land is uphill. I did buy the land prior to that. I did have a septic design expired. If I would have just had it done, then I wouldn't be sitting here today. I'm just asking if you guys would consider possibly, knowing the circumstances of having the existing plan, Lenny will redo a new plan for me that would have to be approved by you guys, and then I could work with Lenny to get it done. And then I can move forward and.
Donna, you haven't turned to you.
Well, this is hard because we have a regulation and we want to be, as Phil said, we have to be consistent with everyone. And we certainly hear.
If I didn't own, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, I know you, but if I didn't own the land and I didn't have the prior septic design, I could understand that, hey, I bought the land, I know what my consequences are, I know, if I bought the land today, I know that I'm buying this land, this is what the rules are, but I did have that in hand when I bought the land, and knowing that if I just would have, like I said, it is my fault, if I just would have went to go see Lenny prior to that, I would not be sitting here right now. So it's not, there is a little bit of a variable in here compared to somebody just buying a piece of property and then trying to reverse on it. I mean, this is somewhat of a unique situation, so,
I'm gonna let Donna continue.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I hear your plea and, but I do agree with what's been said already, with what Phil said. And, you know, I was just trying to look at when our regulation went into effect and the sequence, because we have something in front of us that tells us the history of this proposed septic plan. And that your plan was submitted on the January 4th, 2022. When did our regulation go into effect?
February of 2021.
Yeah. And so I think, I mean, that's part of what I struggle with. It's we've had that regulation for some time.
Like, I didn't hire a builder, like, I built this house myself, you know what I mean? Like, I've literally, yeah, and it's not like I'm relying on, I don't have a builder, I don't have anybody saying, hey, you need to do this, hey, you need to do that. Like, I've literally built this house with my dad, and yeah, it's taken me over 2 years. I didn't know that the thing went into effect, and I've owned the land prior to that, had full intentions on building. You guys have a job to do, and I do respect it, and I'm just, like I said, if I didn't own the land prior to, and I didn't, it's my ignorance, and I really, and asking you guys, somewhat begging you guys to really reconsider that you let me try to do a more basic septic system that I can do. Quality Island can do it for me. I did the air conditioning in this house. It's not gonna cost me much money at all. That's why when Lenny said he has somebody else doing it, but he can't do the Advantech system for me. So I'm literally at the mercy now of, it's a lot more money for me to do Advantech than it would be to do a traditional system.
Would you
I get all-
consider a cheaper technology, D9 technology?
Singular is half the price, but Matt keeps telling me it doesn't work. No. Choose your poison.
Microfast?
I mean, I have 5 acres of land. I'm up on a hill. I don't.
So
It's just me and my wife that live in this house, you know?
So just to explain, historically, where that DEP this Department of Environmental Protection under Title V, did require denitrifying systems for small lots because they were focused on drinking water quality, and they wanted to have a large enough lot so that the septic system wouldn't contaminate the well. What we're talking about is for the next 40 to, like, this is how do I say this? That there'll be consequences on both sides of the table. I understand from your side, it'll be the economic consequences, and we don't really know. I hope you end up, in your career, you're making a lot more money, and the operational costs, won't be a factor, whatever. For us, the reason that we're doing this is because we know that these systems are gonna last for 40, maybe 50 years, right? And the difference between the concentration of nitrogen that you would put out for a regular system and a concentration of nitrogen for a DNIT system, that difference is gonna keep polluting for 40 or 50 years.
It's just me and my wife that live in this house.
Yeah, but
our
it's a
retirement home,
four-bedroom house.
Like it's
Now it is, but I mean, I know we have both sides of it, so it's kind of, I guess maybe You know, if,
Does it help if we do a 3-bedroom septic, Lenny?
It's not gonna change the D-night, it would make the system actually smaller.
So it doesn't help at all. We're better off to
It
do
doesn't really help a lot.
Helps a little
a
bit.
Title V, would
I mean,
a, would a
yeah.
title, would a
Yeah.
full, would a 5-bedroom regular system be better?
A 5?
Then I'm just saying than a 3-bedroom as far as like not doing an Avantech.
You could make it a 5-bedroom.
Does it help though, like only 2 people on, like, as far as,
You can make it a 5-bedroom system and a regular, it's the same size tank. The field
Oh,
has
yeah.
to be increased in size. The 3-bedroom gets decreased in size.
okay.
But you don't wanna make it too small, even though it's good soil, because you end up with a problem.
Okay, well, I think we've heard your case. You know, it's a difficult situation that you're in. I appreciate that. But I don't know that there's any new information that we have from further discussion. Unless there's anything you want to add, Matt?
No.
Okay.
yeah,
So,
I mean, to me, it's a way you have to, I mean, Advantex might be the best system, but maybe it's where you just have to try to minimize your costs now, just, you know.
It's just that I don't have the $45,000 to put a septic in right now where I can,
Yeah,
basically for me, if I can do a Title V system, Roy can put it in for less than 10 grand and I'm in the house. Like, it's a big difference for me, money-wise. It's
So-
just a huge difference. Plus the electrician, I haven't even gotten a price for the electrical yet for the Advantex side of it.
It's around $1,200.
Okay. It's more than that.
It's more than that?
To run
to do the electric.
to do the electrical.
I thought you were talking about the electrical
No,
cost,
okay.
run operating
Which would
cost.
be,
I'm thinking,
which would be Jeff.
my electric bill
Reynolds.
is nowhere near that.
No.
Whoa, whoa.
I have
Okay.
a BS, but I don't spread BS.
Okay,
Well-
is there any further discussion board members want to take? You know, we're faced with a difficult situation. You will
I'm
have to
faced
do a
with
revised
it.
plan in any
Yeah.
case. You know, so it's up to the board to make a determination. We don't specify the technology you use or the operators that you pick. So you can find cheaper solutions that will mitigate the cost. That's one factor. But I'm gonna see what motion the board would like to make.
well, I'm just trying to think if there's I don't know what motion I wanna make. I understand what you're saying is you're just not gonna be able to move into your house.
Yeah, like I'm literally like, I can't get a CO from the bank. Like I
Yeah,
can't,
yeah.
like the minute I get a
Yeah.
CO from the bank,
Yeah.
I'm gonna refinance the house and just pull some, I'm gonna owe 300,000 on my house or whatever, 300,000 on my house. My house is gonna be, let's say, 750. So the minute I get my CO, I can go back to the bank and get a home equity loan and, you know, really finish my house, do the landscaping and stuff. I wanna pull, you know, I need to pull some money out of it and I gotta put my money back in my 401k. You know, like I just, but I'm
So
at a
what
spot
about-
now, I'm literally, I have, Roy's like, you know, I'll do the septic for you, it's gonna, you know, you do the air condition and it's, but I can't do the Advantex system, I'm not, like, it's just,
Well, we're not saying that you have to do the Advantex system. There are cheaper options. And I know Mr. Potter is a
Well-
big fan of the Advantex, as am I. Let me just ask a question. This is out of left field. I'm not an engineer. If you, can you put in a standard system and add the D-Night component after he gets the CO and gets the cash flow back? Is that, I mean, it will be a little bit more expensive because you have to go back in again, but what?
We'd have to come here and redo a plan and then install the system without the D-night.
Right.
Mhm.
You're gonna have to do that anyways, if, in any case. Well, no, I'm sorry, you don't have to.
And then we have to come in with a plan showing the D-night. You have to.
Yeah, but you have the plan with the D-Night
Yeah, but I
already.
have to show it without the D-night, would the board approve it? Unconditionally approve it?
Well, what I'm suggesting is, what Mr. Parent is saying is that he needs a certificate of occupancy.
Yes, he
He needs a
does.
septic system installed.
Yeah,
But once he has a certificate of occupancy, he can work with his bank to improve his cash flow,
Yeah,
which would allow a delayed
delayed installation.
installation of the, adding like, we had a regular septic system, we added a D-night component
He could
as
do
a
that.
voluntary upgrade.
But the trouble with Advantax is it requires its own tank, a separate tank. That 15,000 for the Advantax doesn't include the septic tank. You have to buy the septic tank. So you have to call and ask for an Advantax, AX20 approved tank. They sell that, Bristol County. You put that in, you'd have to use it as a septic tank only and then add the D-night unit on after. But would the board give him, if he didn't put the D-night unit on top of that special tank, you could give him a certificate of
And then how do you
compliance.
put the other
Banks
tank?
all want to see a certificate of compliance.
I thought of certificate of occupancy.
Yes,
See,
CO.
They won't give you a CO. Who's going to give you the CO? The building inspector gives you the CO.
Okay.
He's the one that gives you the CO.
I don't
I
know
think
if that's a reasonable
I had
option.
thought of that, but I hadn't, I was just trying to think, yeah, I mean,
that may not be kosher, Title V wise, every other, so, I don't know, I just threw it out there. What do you think, Matt?
Well,
That's
he'd
not a
meet
good
Title
idea.
V, he wouldn't meet the Westport regulations.
Yeah,
It's a
Right, Matt?
difficult case, it really is, but, I just don't know in the end, if you have to, I don't know, how much is a special, is it a big difference in a regular septic tank from the?
It's a little bit more.
And then,
It's-
then what happens if the board agreed to something, to put a compliant Title V system in now, and then within 6 months, after he gets in there, he has to add the D-night component, and it doesn't happen? What do we do? How do we deal with that? And it's difficult, and then, I don't know what to say about it. It's
It would make us vulnerable, absolutely,
Yeah.
because we have to rely on,
right.
we could put, I don't know if we can. put
Is there any benefit of researching another system and coming back to us at our next meeting and with different, maybe the different costs would be a difference.
I can do that.
And, not everything's as expensive as the Advantax.
No.
I just know, even from the other people I talk to, that it's, not.
It is a better system. It is a better system.
What because I was trying to get some current, as I don't, not in the
I mean,
business.
I've got this price as high as 60,000, you know what I mean? So it's, the whole system is,
No,
just
it wouldn't be 60.
because of your brother took all my fill for me.
Who?
Your brother.
Well, yeah, they're,
Is that his?
but I'm just saying, both, the people I've talked to today said, yeah, the Advantex is the, one case they said it was the BMW, the other guy said it was the Cadillac. And that the Singular is the Kia, so
Right.
it's definitely, but for us, a Kia is still
Better than nothing.
better than
Right.
nothing.
I heard
So-
Phil talking earlier, and I kind
Yeah.
of like that thought.
So I think we're feeling, if I read the board correctly, we're feeling pretty squeamish about making an exception here because it opens the floodgates.
Let
And
me do some research and talk to Ray and figure some things out.
yeah.
Okay.
And then he can ask to come back to the next
Right.
board meeting.
Yep, and
Yeah,
we'll
let's
look,
do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would support probably the conditional or the phase-in approach,
Yeah.
as a way, and I think we could,
get some
you know,
sort
try
of
to make that work.
written agreement that expresses
See,
penalties if
it's
it's
just like
not.
the single.
What's the
Yeah.
D9? That's basically the tank with the pump and stuff, though,
What
right?
is it?
That's adding the tank with the pump in afterwards?
Yeah, there's a circulate, so you wouldn't need a pump. But there's a circulator inside that Advantax tank, and it's a 3-compartment tank. But it'll work without the units in it. You're just not gonna get the breakdown. So you could put that tank in and come back after, and put the multi-unit right, the unit just gets mounted right on top. So you might, I don't think you need a pump. I don't think so.
Okay.
So we're trying to be creative in finding some solutions that help us meet our goal, that relieve some of the financial burden for you. Mr. Potter has suggested that he's willing to help do some research to see if there's a solution that
Yeah.
works
That's
for
right.
you. And, we'll, happy to reserve a slot for
Okay.
you in a couple weeks or a month, whatever the time takes. We certainly appreciate your time coming in and, making your,
No,
Yeah,
thank you.
see if we
I
can,
am,
see if we can figure out a way to get there.
Embarrassed to be here, I just,
Yeah.
it's kind of frustrating,
and again, we appreciate that you've invested in a lot of,
He can't do it that way without putting the pump in after. Because that unit sits above the top of the tank. And the difference between the inlet to the tank and the outlet of that unit is a difference of 1.5 feet. So if the tank goes in, as per this plan, he's too low for his D-box. It's okay. I'm gonna talk to him and figure something out.
Yeah. I mean, so if you put a regular system in, you'd still need to get put a pump in to pump it up to the,
I would have to raise the tank. And then when you put that Advantex unit on top like you have, that's a box, a green fiberglass box. That thing will stick up halfway up to the top of foundation. Let me talk to him.
okay.
I mean, the other, we just talked about Singulair and Microfast, but the other one we see occasionally is some Fuji, and I don't know if that,
I'm not happy with Fuji.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, anyways.
100 years ago, I graduated from college, and
Couple
my
years
parents and my grandparents bought me a Transit. And anyway, I ended up, I couldn't see him paying for a K&E German, so I bought a Jap, Fuji. So when I got in the sea beast, we got brand new survey gear one day. We break out the survey gear. The U.S. government bought Fuji. I'll be there.
All right, so let's see if we can figure out a way we can both get what we
That's what we need, yeah,
All right.
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
yes.
Okay, so I would take a motion to pass over, I guess.
Yeah,
So moved.
move to continue, second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. We did 4:40 to 4:30 PM. Matt needs to leave now.
Yeah, I can go through the 170 Cabins Neck Road, then I gotta go.
Okay, let's do that. Because there's no representatives here. Okay, so, Matt, this is for, under other business, 170 Cabinets Neck, septic revision from D-Night to non-D-Night for Ross Forbes.
Okay, so back in March of '22, Mr. Forbes came in with a septic system repair. I believe it was an upgrade of a cesspool, 170 Cabinets Neck Road. He was gonna put in a system with a voluntary D-Night. And as we, know and heard, just heard the rising cost of everything, he's asking if he can, he wants to remove the voluntary aspect of the D-Night. So I do have water tests here that were taken, and his nitrates are at 2.24, no bacteria and no other health flags with it. So, I mean, it's voluntary, and now he's just asking to pull that back and submit a plan with non-D-Night.
Were you able to determine the proposed addition that there's no,
Yeah, none.
no bedrooms? Okay. So, certainly under, the well is, what's the distance?
45
It's close,
feet from the
but-
well.
Yeah.
But he's currently he only has, 2.5 for.
Right, so under our maximum feasible compliance policy, we would not require D-Night.
Right.
Okay, and Donna?
I think when I looked at the plan, it was also maybe as well as up gradient, but it's not really totally clear, but maybe that's part of the reason why it's like that. I don't know where his
Relatively
existing
flat,
system is.
yeah.
Yeah, so, well, I would move to allow him to voluntarily withdraw the
Current plan.
nitrogen-reducing plan and submit a standard Title V compliance system.
Um,
And so this is the plan without it.
No, I think this is.
This is the plan with it, this is the plan that we approved
This
in
is-
March
yeah,
of last year.
And the minutes, just to document current status, but he's asking, I would ask if we do that motion that we, if it's the cost of the maintenance, that, as Mr. Parent was describing, you know, that there are cheaper options out there, so, just
I let them know.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can give him some examples. I think that that's fine, but
Yeah,
I'm not.
I'm not,
yeah.
you know, he wanted to do, because it is Cadmus Neck, right on the river.
Yeah, no, it's not, yeah,
Prefer to keep it if these,
yeah,
if, again, you can,
right,
you know, there are cheaper options kind of thing, but.
yeah.
um,
I mean, I don't,
So the
I'm
motion's
not
been
advocating
made.
for it, I just don't think,
Yeah,
I don't think you can refuse someone
right.
the
no,
ability to modify a plan, their plan, even for this reason.
So with, who moved it?
Phil, will you second that?
Okay, I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept withdrawal of the current plan with submission of a new plan with a standard septic system. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. So I'll give this plan back. And then, I guess the one for 219 W Tickle Road will come back in a couple of weeks. Okay, so Matt, you need to take off. We're going to Rochester?
Yeah, so
Selectmen?
to go down to their meeting, select board meeting about grant stuff, so.
Okay, so we'll say goodbye to you, unless there are any questions for Matt before he leaves. We're gonna continue to.
Upstairs?
Yes, sir.
Here's all the other plans. Do you want the Mount Hope ones back?
You guys gonna drop that off upstairs, or I'll take them all back then?
Oh, plans?
Yeah,
Mount Hope.
Oh, okay.
I can take the other ones too up there while
Oh,
I'm
okay.
heading up there. All right, thank you.
I have to go to the select board at 6, so, Phil, you had asked for, cesspool phase-out discussion?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, 'cause I have to, yeah, I was, you know, there's just kind of been a confluence of circumstances, you know, which leads me to think that we could consider, you know, extending the phase-out date. And so that's, in a nutshell, we don't have to talk about it now, but that's in a nutshell, you know, that I was considering the cesspool, you know, phase-out date, just because what was happening, you know, with sewer plans and how that had created, you know, some, you know, confusion, as you were describing, and that I just wanted to explore that with, you know, with you all. And I talked about it a little with, you know, with Matt, and at least for, you know, systems that are not failed, or even going back to, you know, excluding, you know, when there are third-party, when there are property transfers kinds of things, you know, so.
Are you talking about extending the deadline only for the sewer area or for the whole?
Well,
Potential sewer area?
yeah, I think that is, I think the rationale for doing it there is stronger than doing it across the board. So, yes, you know, but I think there's some pros and cons to being uniform about it versus, you know, identifying a particular area. But you know, I think that, and I'm hopeful, based on the conversation, for example, that we had about, trying to find, better low-cost financing for, low-income folks who are really facing, that kind of problem. And this topic just kicked off more of my mind because recently I had this kind of in passing conversation with Nelia, who was just talking about this individual who she really thought was kind of going, what's the right word, kind of putting herself where she's going to be in kind of over her head because she feels she has to do this now. And I was thinking, and I think Matt kind of talked to her later because he was part of this conversation. It was just kind of a spontaneous thing that happened. I mean, the first part of it, the Nelia part of it. And then Matt later talked to her, and I think, she's kind of put that on hold. But this idea that we might go back and adjust the other fund that we had to provide some of that financing, and I still think it might be worthwhile based on other things I've said, that to take another shot, another run, to reduce the financing for the existing community septic loan program. I was in conversation with folks at Aquafund in Barnstable County. We had this conversation before. They give out 0% loans. It's a 15-town kind of organization.
Yeah.
And they were borrowing more cheaply at the time, but they have kind of this whole stratified system for giving loans, none of which are at the rate that we have.
Right, we tried before.
I know we did, but we might have an ally now.
Well, I did.
More allies to
Right,
that, because that was.
Is that something that we could join?
Hmm?
The
You said it
Barnstable
was-
County.
You said that there were communities and.
Well,
it
they formed a county-wide system of 15 towns,
was- Okay.
do this
Oh,
in.
countywide.
And they needed to get special legislation to do it. But I just thought that there might be more benefit, more upside than downside in just giving there to be a little more time to kind of figure out if we could make this less economically impactful for people.
Okay.
That's all. And, without, really sacrificing, the overall objective. So that was kind of, and maybe we can make that part of a working session to kick around different ideas.
Yeah, and, you fought very hard
Yeah.
to
yeah.
get the interest rate low for
Yeah.
septic upgrades. And so if there's anything that we can learn from the county-wide process, maybe it's something in Bristol. I mean, they're part of, no,
Well,
they're not,
yeah.
they're Barnstable County. Maybe there's something we can do in Bristol County.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a long-term solution, but it is, I thought it was encouraging just to be able to say, basically, here are the 15 other communities that are doing this.
Yes,
It isn't illegal.
right.
Well, so my understanding of the Barnstable County program is and in fact, the septic loan program application form now allows this circumstance where if you target it for low and moderate income, like we have for
Right.
our other
Right.
loan program, that instead of a 2% loan rate, you can get a 0% loan rate from DEP.
Yeah,
And therefore, but that's the incentive. You have to target it to the low and
Right.
moderate income.
right.
Which I think our town treasurer, who sets the rate, would be sympathetic to that if we
Yeah.
could, or more sympathetic than she has been in the past.
Right.
I think if we, put together a proposal with the select board, perhaps get their endorsement. That's something, we could, I don't think we can go back and like lower our loan rate on our current one, I don't think, but.
Well,
worth
there
exploring.
is, I think there is flexibility to, under the Barnstable County one, to kind of do some kind of renegotiation. I don't know, because they have both currently, I think because they have so many communities who may also be pooling their money for, in the revolving fund part of it. And so they may have a bigger nest egg
Right.
from which they can absorb the risk of doing
And,
that kind of stuff, or the
I
cost of
mean,
doing
the
that.
other challenge is, as the treasurer has rightly pointed out, there are administrative costs to managing the program.
Right.
And that's where that, differential
Yeah.
comes from. And Westport doesn't have a lot of wiggle room in that regard.
Yeah,
And
right.
even with an override, if it passed.
right, yeah,
not. So that
yeah,
they're looking for every possible way to
I
reduce
agree,
cost in
I
town.
agree,
So,
yeah, yeah.
that's a competing interest.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
The other thing I'll just mention, sort of as an aside, which I think we could join, is Barnstable County is exploring this, what's called an RME, Regional Management Entity, which would take on the responsibility of sort of being the middleman between the engineer and the installer. They would
Mm.
contract with all the installers and the
right,
O&M
right,
operators
right,
and sort of level the playing field, standardize. It would be wonderful.
yeah,
It would
yeah.
save heartache for a lot of people,
Right.
us included, and
Yeah.
homeowners and engineers even.
Right,
So,
right.
um,
Remember,
that-
like, we looked into that idea related to the cesspool, which is that we would, or for the community septic program, rather than, okay, we would just have one engineer person who would prepare all the plans and do everything, and, like that, so
Yeah.
I think that's, that there,
so there's, possibilities. I would say we should make sure we stay on track. Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Stay
that's
on track for the, I think we've all agreed on the 1% loan program to modify the requirements at next town meeting, so that won't
Yeah.
take effect until next May, but it's something to look forward to. Explore the idea of modifications to the other, the community septic loan program that's currently at 4% or 5%? 5%.
5%, yeah.
And the discussion around, an extension or something on the cesspool, I think, by the fall, by September or October, that we will have a lot better sense of the, and I had a similar call at a homeowner who's anxious, he wants to go forward. I said, well, I would recommend you wait until the fall to see, because he's on right off Route 6.
Yeah,
And it doesn't make sense for him to go forward if the cesspool, if the sewer's coming in
Right.
and covering his property within, 2 or 3 or 5 years.
right,
Um,
right, exactly.
So,
yeah.
We also have another issue, though. It's all the homes we don't have plans for, and we don't know what they have.
yes, that's another big,
I mean, that's just a whole nother big
Right.
ball of wax.
big ball of
Yeah,
wax that we
yeah,
have to
yeah.
deal with, because some of those homes could possibly have cesspools as well, that we don't, not aware
Yeah,
of.
yeah,
And we know, so, and most of those are not in the Route 6 area. They're all over town, so. Lots more to discuss. Let me just, I've got 10 minutes before I have to get to the select board. Other.
I have a dinner to go to at 6.
Okay, well, then we have double incentive. So there was some thought about maybe doing a working meeting to
Yeah, if
discuss
that
all
would-
of
yeah.
these things.
Yeah, yeah.
So why don't, my head is not there right now to try and figure out a calendar. I guess next week, an off week or the week after. I
Yeah.
mean, not the week after, though, that's a meeting week. 2 weeks later. Let me have Matt send out an
Okay.
email with some proposed
Yeah.
dates. Any other updates people want to share at this point?
I think the only this is kind of a good news thing, I didn't want to, talk about it, well, I would have applied, but there, I ended up kind of coordinating with the Watershed Alliance
Oh,
to
nice.
support the Senate tax proposal to substantially increase the tax rebate for upgrading septic systems, and to get a support letter, and the effort was very, very successful. We got all the members of our health collaborative to sign on to the letter, Buzzards Bay Coalition, CLF, many watershed protection associations throughout. So I think there was like 25 or 30 signatories to this letter that went to the conference committee representatives supporting the legislation, and our Senator Rodrick and Representative Schmid both were very supportive of it, and so I'm hoping that that will be another way that we can
Another
kind
tool to
of
help.
cushion the financial impacts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
the board has been working on those things, to help decrease the financial burden, and we're aware of that, we're sensitive to that. So, but you've done a lot of great work on that, Phil.
Yeah, so,
Thank you.
we'll see what comes out of it. I mean, it's, so that's that. Let's see what happens.
Right, well, I know they had a fire at the State House, so they delayed their business. I guess I don't know the budget yet, but hopefully soon. So we'll know imminently, hopefully. Donna,
Okay.
any dates?
I have,
You've been
I
there.
had a lovely vacation renewal. I recommend to anyone, if you haven't seen a good friend or family member in a long time, try to connect with them. It feels really good to reconnect.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and because I'm such a big mental health advocate, it really boosted my mental health.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear it, because you can get dragged down by stuff. I have no other updates that we haven't already kind of
No.
talked about, except Westport Notes columns. I got to get back on track with that. Are there any particular topics people want to focus on? I did try to give Shorelines the DEP summer safety tips, but he ended up having a lot of news to share, so
Yeah.
hasn't put it in. And it wasn't written by any of us, so maybe he didn't feel it was so.
Right.
So anyways, think about columns.
Yeah.
I know one thing, I got the latest vaccine bulletin about the plan to move to, yearly boosters in the fall,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, but that's still preliminary. I know there's lots of topics we could write about, I'm just like plumb out.
Yeah.
It's been too hot.
I mean, I
Especially here.
would be happy
Maybe
to
we
do
can-
something either in August or
Great.
September, so, you did the last one, right?
Yes.
I'm due, but I'm just,
Let me
Yeah.
think about it.
Think
Maybe
about
I can
it.
do something towards the end of August.
okay. Well, ideas are welcome. It does help educate people to get
Yes.
these
Yeah,
laws out there.
I mean, there was someone who I didn't know recently came up to me and just complimented the board as a whole for the newsletters and keeping people informed about what's going on.
I've had a couple of people at the blood drives that we've had talk about that and how
Yeah.
that's really helped them
Yeah,
and really understand all the things that we're responsible for, which is a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Well, there are, speaking of topics, there's, I forwarded this to you because I don't know if you guys get that weekly local boards of health email.
Well,
I
you sent
don't.
me the thing with
Yeah.
the.
It had the trainings.
Yeah,
for-
yeah.
But it also had things like insecure housing, homelessness, and health. seminar that you can listen to the reporting. There was the thing about, those past, extreme heat, and, well, that was the one, but opioid misuse and suicide prevention,
Yeah.
a webinar, so.
It
I
would be
can't keep up
great,
with all that stuff.
it would be great to collaborate with the new coordinator,
Yes, I'm hoping
Olive,
Olive will help.
on writing
Yep.
and,
But that
and
won't,
doing that.
she won't start until late September, after Labor Day, because her
Yeah.
current job.
But, I mean, you had mentioned hoarding, it's possible to do something on that.
Yeah.
So, but I'll think about it, because I've done work with Bristol Elder Services and around hoarding cases, and
Oh,
so.
okay. Yeah, it's, well, we saw examples in the photos last week.
All right,
Okay,
Okay,
enjoy your dinner.
thank you.
all right,
I'll
so,
report back on the select board.
Yeah, good luck.
Hopefully it'll go smoothly.
all right, so I move that we adjourn this meeting at 5:57
All in-
PM.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.